You know, I think one of the rent-a-car companies has a motto, which is leave the driving to us. And I think one of the things that's happened in the last couple of generations is that there have been more and more big institutions, or big corporations, or big government institutions, they're big social service, they're big health institutions. And in a funny way, there's so many of them, they're so big, that I think they give us a hidden message. It's like the rent-a-car manager, just leave the living to us. We'll live your life for you, you know? And so if you need health, just turn to us. We're a medical thing and we'll make you healthy. And if you need wisdom, we got great institutions of secondary and higher education. We'll make you wise. And if you need a little justice or law and order, just turn to us. We got wonderful high-tech police departments, great courts, and we'll make you secure and safe, right? And if you need stuff, any kind of stuff you can think of, we got great corporations and we got more stuff than you'll ever be able to use. In fact, we're working hard to convince you every day that you need more of our stuff because you don't buy enough of it, right? So you're just surrounded, I think, by people who are going to do the living for you. And you can just be there and consume their stuff and you will live a good life. But, you know, we just keep getting these sort of funny little ideas that maybe there's something else to life than that. And so I think what's happening is more and more people have this sort of sneaking, haunting feeling, this voice that says there must be something more to life than consuming their stuff. And well, what is that? And what that is, I think, is the fact that everybody has a gift. We're given it. And there's nothing more stifling than not to be able to give it. But this whole idea, all the institutions are going to live our lives for us. We don't have anything to do. We're consumers. We're clients. But this thing inside of us says, no, but we're also contributors. We got these gifts. We want to give them. We got to give them. And that's what I think is the movement we're seeing these days. That's the citizen movement. It's saying, you know, you can't live a life for us by us spending money for your stuff. Because finally, what makes us real is to give, to express ourselves, and not just be consuming stuff all the time. So what we're seeing is the ever-growing demand for people to contribute, to give their gifts, to be producers of the future. And there's another name for that kind of person. It isn't consumer and it isn't client, it's citizen. In a democracy, citizens produce communities and the future. So we got to have space for citizens. All these institutions that are trying to convince us that they got everything we need and we haven't got anything but needs, lead us away from recognizing that what we need more than anything else is to contribute and to be in relationship with other people who are contributing, because that's what a community is. And if we're just consumers, we will never have a community. We will never be citizens. We will never have a democracy. So we got to get these two things straight. And what's happening more and more is a citizen movement in which the other part of having a real life is coming forward, right? And we got to have the big systems move back. Give us some room. We have things to do that only we can do. And that's the other big thing. No matter what all those systems claim, they cannot do what they claim to do. They cannot make better communities. They cannot help make a democracy. You know, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union had great institutions, just no freedom, no democracy, right? And in a funny way, no care. And that's the other thing, finally, that only we can make or produce, and that is care. Care is the freely given commitment from the heart of one person to another. And no system can produce care, or the silly idea of managing care. Care is the giving from the heart, the commitment of one to another, the sharing of gifts, the recognition of the value of all, which is what democracy allows us to express. One of the things that's interesting is, what is it that helps the citizen movement grow? And I think there are probably, in my mind, two things. The first has to do with what the citizens do. And there, it's pretty clear that what allows people to give their gifts is they have to have somebody to give it to. And so it's coming together in groups, right, that allows us to share and give our gifts, to contribute, so that the more we are together in groups, are organized in groups, we can give, but we can also create, we can participate in the, so both for care and for democracy or power or politics, the whole thing depends pretty much on our coming together in groups. Now, the problem with institutions is they always deal with us as individuals. I think of it as the medical model, you know, I got it, you ain't got it, I'm gonna fix you, right? But it's you. So the idea is that how you're gonna be better is consume my stuff, my health, my wisdom, my justice, my cars, right? But the other reality is that most of the things that are going to make my life worthwhile, I have to do with other people. And as long as I'm a consumer, it'll keep me from being organized with other people to produce care, to create democracy, to find new ways to do old things. So, organizing our assets is, I think, the critical part of the restoration of the balance of power. Now, on the other side, what can the institutions do? Well, our good friend Henry has really got that one down clearly. He was King Henry in Savannah, and he wrote a book called Leading by Stepping Back. And that's my general says. I learned from Henry that the first thing that institutions can do is get out of the way. Do not lead people to believe that because you have pills and medicine that you are going to provide health. Because whether they're going to be healthy or not is mostly dependent on what they do with their neighbors and their friends together, right? So I think stepping back is the big thing. Now, when we think about strong communities, one of the things, you know, you might do is think about how things began. Now we're in Toronto, and some European settlers, the first European settlers must have come here, and they probably came with 2 wagons, had 2 oxen, couple of horses, wagons with tools and beds, little food, maybe two families. That's who showed up here. Now, how did Toronto come about if those two families showed up here? Well, let's imagine that the scion of the group is one older man, of course. And so they look at this place, they come right here, there's nothing but prairie out here, few trees, and they get out of the wagon, and the lead guy, he looks over the crew and he says to his wife, well, I think this is the place. Let's settle here. But Mary, you're pregnant, so I don't think you can do anything. And then he looks at his daughter and he says, Sue, it was too bad back then when the wagon crushed your right leg. So you can't do anything. And then he turns to her son, Mark, and he says, Mark, you're so dumb. I don't think I could even instruct you what to do. And then he turns to the other adult guy and he says, Charlie, you know, the last several days you've been complaining about hearing voices. I don't know. I think you're a little off. And he turns to his wife, Jane, and he says, Jane, you know, I'd like to have you doing something here, but it just seems to me that you're always so out of energy that you can't really produce anything. And that infant that's driving you crazy, right, obviously can't do anything. So I think we better put everybody back in the wagon and leave and go back to England. Because we can't build a community with this bunch of deficient, needy people. But every single community is here because of the opposite idea. That no matter what kinds of problems or defects each one of those people had, they knew to make a community, they had to ignore that and say, Henry, right? You know, as bad as you are with those voices, you wield a mean axe. You get out there and let's get ourselves some logs because we're going to need shelter mighty soon, right? And that's how, if we go back and really look at it, how communities get built. Literally is everybody says, we need you. Doesn't matter what problems you have. It ain't gonna work if we focus on your problems because we gotta build a community. And that's true today. So if you wanna know what a 50% or half horsepower community is, it's got one half of the people who are labeled and set aside and say, oh, you can't do it, you're developmentally disabled, you're mentally ill, you're an ex-convict, you're a welfare mother, you're a frail elderly, you're a youth at risk, all those things. That idea is the way to make sure you have a weak community. Because a strong community is when everybody gives all their gifts. And those ways of approaching people is just like the guy who said there wasn't anybody here in the wagon who could do anything. Only we do it today in the name of doing good. And it is those people who serve us that are mainly convincing us that what's important about us is our deficiencies, our problems, and our needs. And if we believe it, our communities will die.